Driving around in the taxi sounds like an easy job. Just sitting down in an air-conditioned vehicle, picking up passengers from point to point. But it's not so simple when the supernatural comes to disturb us. It was 6 p.m. I left my house to take my taxi from my relief driver, and I started working. Everything was great, and by the time it was roughly 2 a.m., I have collected enough money to go home. The time was 2:15 a.m. I have just picked up a passenger from the Bedok area, and he told me he was heading towards Upper Pierce Reservoir Park. Throughout the journey, I was talking with him, asking him what he's doing over there at the time of the night. He told me he is going over there to meet his friends who was already over there chilling and waiting for him. Not thinking much, I continued my journey and we finally reached the destination. I told him to enjoy himself and have fun. So, after sending him to Upper Pierce Reservoir, I went back out towards the old Upper Thompson Road, when suddenly, towards the entrance of the small little road that leads to the reservoir, what they call the Devil's Bend, I saw a lady who was standing beside the road and she was flagging my taxi. I stopped for her and asked where is she going. She told me she's heading towards the west area, somewhere around near Teo Estate and Lim Chu Kang Road. So, I took her in just because I was planning that to be my last trip of the night, since I stay in Jurong also. Throughout the journey, the lady never really talked much. She was just sitting in the back seat facing straight. When we reached Lim Chu Kang Road, I asked again, where do you want me to stop? She said, further ahead. When I asked again, is it here? She told me it's still further ahead. After a few minutes, we finally reached an area near the cemetery called Pusara Aman. She told me to stop, and I asked if this place was okay. She said yes, and she paid me the taxi fare and walked out of my taxi, walking straight into the cemetery. After she left my taxi, I stayed there while looking at the lady walking into the cemetery. I wonder if it's a bit weird she asked me to stop here, but it's none of my business. And I continued my journey down Jalan Bahar on my way to Jurong. While driving along Jalan Bahar, I suddenly smelled a very strong flowery smell in my taxi, so I wind down my windows to let the smell out of my taxi. After I opened the windows, I looked at my rear view mirror and I was shocked because I saw the same lady in my taxi. I slammed my brakes and stopped at the side of the road. When I turned back, there was no one at the back. So I think maybe it was just me because I didn't sleep much. I continued my journey home. While driving, I suddenly hear a girl humming coming from the back of my taxi. I looked at the rear view mirror once again, and there was nothing there. But the humming sound that came from the rear of my taxi was very clear, and I was sure it wasn't anything else. I just ignored it and continued my journey. When I reached the car park, I went in the car park to park my car. After closing my car door, I walked in front to look back at my taxi, and I realized the passenger light was on. So I went back to unlock my taxi and turn off the light. After I closed the door again, I walked towards the lift lobby and looked back at my taxi. Once again, the passenger light was on again. So I went back into my taxi one more time to turn off the light. After closing the door again, I suddenly glanced at the back seat of my taxi and got terrified when I saw a lady in white with long hair at the back of my taxi. I quickly locked the taxi and ran straight towards the lift lobby. While running, I smelled the same floral fragrance that I smelled in the taxi just now. I pressed the button to call the lift. When the lift arrived, I quickly entered and pressed my floor and closed the door. When the door is about to close, it suddenly opened back. I pressed the button again to close it, and when it was like a jar, it opened back. So I pressed the button one last time and forced the lift door to close with my hands. Finally, the lift door closed. When I reached my floor, I quickly ran towards my house and unlocked my gate. I entered my house and quickly closed the door and locked it. I finally felt a sense of relief. I took out my shoes and I walked towards the kitchen when suddenly I heard my house door being knocked aggressively. I was terrified, so I waited for it to stop. After the banging stopped, I went to the door and looked through the peephole. What I saw in the peephole was the same lady in the car, so I got shocked and fell to the floor. And the banging continues. At that time, I was so scared as I could hear the entity banging my door and calling my name. After a while, I could hear a lady outside my door laughing, and I got so scared I went into my room and woke my wife up. She asked me what happened, and I told her something is at the front door. So she accompanied me towards the front door and recited prayers together. After reciting prayers, there was no laughing sound or begging noise anymore. So I went to shower and went to sleep. Till this day, I can still remember the lady's face as it was terrifying. Thank you for listening to Supernatural Stories. Like if you like this video and please share and subscribe. Do also press the bell notification icon below to not miss a good episode. Good night.